At more than 100 meters below sea level, and with temperatures that can soar to more than 50 degrees Celsius, the Danakil Depression is one of the most inhospitable places on Earth.
There are places on this Earth where you're forbidden to go, not because of laws or fences, but because stepping foot there means you're choosing your own death. Right now, as you watch this, these locations exist, waiting silently for the next person foolish enough to ignore every warning. Governments have sealed them off. Scientists have documented the deaths. Yet the mystery pulls people in like moths to a flame. Today, I'm taking you inside the most dangerous, most forbidden places humans are banned from visiting. Places where nature, radiation, and deadly guardians ensure that trespassers never return. Are you ready to discover what lies beyond the barriers? Places of fire and poison. The frozen lake that kills instantly. Deep in Russia's industrial wasteland, surrounded by barbed wire and armed guards, sits a small body of water that looks completely ordinary from satellite images. Lake Karachay appears calm, sometimes frozen during harsh winters, reflecting clouds like any peaceful reservoir. But this lake holds a terrifying secret that makes it the most contaminated place humanity has ever created. For decades, Soviet nuclear facilities dumped radioactive waste directly into its waters without filtration, without containment, without any concern for consequences. The result? A chemical nightmare so concentrated that standing near the shore for just 60 minutes delivers enough radiation to kill you within weeks. You won't feel anything at first. No burning sensation, no immediate pain. Radiation works silently, invisibly tearing apart your cells at the molecular level. By the time symptoms appear, nausea, hair loss, internal bleeding, the damage is irreversible. Your immune system collapses. Your organs begin shutting down one by one. Doctors can only make you comfortable as your body destroys itself from within. Early workers at nearby facilities didn't understand what they were handling. They died mysteriously, their illnesses baffling medical professionals who had never seen such catastrophic cellular breakdown. The Soviet government eventually acknowledged the danger and attempted to fill portions of the lake with concrete blocks, hoping to seal the poison beneath solid barriers. But radioactive particles don't respect human engineering. They continue leaching into underground water systems, spreading through soil, carried by wind when dust storms sweep across the dried sections. The exclusion zone extends for miles in every direction. Military checkpoints turn back anyone attempting to approach. Satellite monitoring tracks movement constantly. Yet the lake remains, a testament to humanity's capacity for creating dangers that outlive civilizations. Scientists estimate the radiation will persist for thousands of years, long after every language currently spoken has been forgotten. The desert where temperature becomes a weapon. Ethiopia's Danakil Depression sits below sea level in one of the hottest inhabited regions on Earth.
In the northeastern part of Ethiopia, at about 125 meters below sea level, lies the Danakil Depression. A desert so hot and toxic, almost nothing lives there.
But calling it merely hot insults the brutal reality of this landscape. Daytime temperatures routinely climb past 130 degrees Fahrenheit. The ground itself radiates heat like a stovetop, turning the air shimmery and distorted. But extreme temperature represents only the beginning of Danakil's dangers. This region sits atop the Afar Triangle, where three tectonic plates are actively pulling apart, creating a geological nightmare of volcanic activity and toxic emissions. Sulfuric acid pools dot the terrain, their surfaces bubbling constantly, releasing clouds of yellow vapor that smell like rotten eggs and burn your throat with every breath. These aren't small puddles. Some stretch hundreds of feet across, their vivid colors, neon yellow, electric green, blood orange, creating an alien beauty that masks lethal chemistry. The ground around them is crusted with salt and sulfur deposits that crunch underfoot. But this crust frequently hides hollows where superheated gases accumulate. Step in the wrong spot and the surface gives way, plunging you into chambers where temperatures exceed 200 degrees. The Afar people have lived in this region for generations, adapting through centuries of accumulated knowledge about where to walk, when to travel, and how to recognize safe zones from deadly ones. They mine salt from ancient deposits, loading camels with blocks they'll carry to distant markets. But even with their expertise, Deaths occur regularly. Tourists who attempt to visit despite warnings face conditions their bodies simply cannot handle. Dehydration happens within hours. Heat exhaustion follows quickly. Without immediate evacuation to cooler environments, organs begin failing. Rescue operations struggle because helicopters can barely function in the superheated air, and ground vehicles sink into salt flats or break down on volcanic rock. The cave, where air becomes your enemy. Beneath the mountains of southern France lies a network of passages that spelunkers once explored freely, mapping tunnels and chambers that extended for miles into the limestone. Then in 1986, a shepherd noticed his dog had vanished near a cave entrance. Searching for the animal, he descended into an opening and immediately felt dizzy, struggled to breathe, and barely managed to crawl back to the surface. His dog was found days later, dead at the bottom of a chamber. Scientists investigating the cave discovered something terrifying. The entire system was filled with carbon dioxide, an invisible, odorless gas heavier than air that had accumulated over centuries. Carbon dioxide doesn't announce its presence. You don't smell danger or see colored vapors warning you to flee. You simply start feeling strange, lightheaded, confused. Your vision blurs, your legs weaken, and if you don't immediately retreat, you lose consciousness and never wake up. The gas is so heavy it pools in the lowest chambers, creating invisible lakes of suffocation that have zero tolerance for human life. After several deaths, authorities sealed the cave entrance with steel gates and warning signs in multiple languages. But the danger remains, locked behind bars, waiting patiently for anyone foolish enough to cut the locks. The island protected by its inhabitants. In the Bay of Bengal, approximately 30 miles off India's coast, sits an island roughly the size of Manhattan.
This is North Sentinel Island, one of the most mysterious places on Earth. It's been home to the most isolated tribe in the world for the last 60,000 years.
From aerial photographs, North Sentinel Island looks like paradise. Dense jungle, white beaches, coral reefs shimmering in clear water. But this island represents one of the last places on Earth where modern civilization has completely failed to establish contact. The Sentinelese people, estimated at fewer than 200 individuals, have violently rejected every attempt at communication for centuries. Their message is simple and consistent. Approach our shores and you will die. When fishing vessels drift too close, the Sentinelese emerge from the jungle armed with bows and arrows, launching volleys at anyone visible on deck. When helicopters fly overhead, they shoot at the aircraft. After the devastating 2004 tsunami, Indian authorities sent a helicopter to check for survivors. The Sentinelese response was to fire arrows at the helicopter while making aggressive gestures that needed no translation. In 2018, an American missionary named John Chow paid fishermen to transport him near the island, believing he could peacefully contact the tribe and share his faith. He made 3 attempts to land. On the 3rd attempt, the Sentinelese killed him. Fishermen watching from offshore saw tribal members dragging his body across the beach. It was never recovered. The Indian government has declared a 3-mile exclusion zone around North Sentinel Island, enforced by Coast Guard patrols. This isn't just about respecting indigenous sovereignty, though that's certainly part of it. It's about preventing certain death. Anthropologists believe the Sentinelese maintain their hostility because historical memory, passed through generations via oral tradition, warns them what happens when outsiders arrive. Neighboring islands saw their populations decimated by diseases that European explorers carried, illnesses against which isolated peoples had zero immunity. The Sentinelese apparently learned from others' suffering. They've chosen complete isolation over any potential benefit contact might bring. Places of extreme nature. The valley that proves hell exists on Earth. California's Death Valley earned its name through blood and desperation long before it became a national park. This stretch of desert holds the record for the highest air temperature ever reliably recorded, 134 degrees Fahrenheit in July 1913. But that official measurement doesn't capture the full horror of Death Valley's heat. Ground temperatures can exceed 200 degrees during summer months. The valley sits 282 feet below sea level, trapped in a geological depression that functions like a natural oven. Hot air flows in and has nowhere to escape, building intensity hour after hour under relentless sunshine. Early American settlers attempting to cross Death Valley as a shortcut to California goldfields faced impossible choices. Traveling during daylight meant watching the sun murder you slowly through heat stroke and dehydration. Traveling at night meant navigating treacherous terrain, steep canyons, hidden drop-offs, sharp rocks, all without adequate light. Many wagon trains entered Death Valley believing they could push through in a few days. Their bleached bones later told different stories. Water sources marked on outdated maps had dried up completely. Springs that flowed seasonally were bone dry during crossing attempts. Families watched each other die one by one, unable to help, unable even to bury the dead properly because the ground was too hard and they lacked strength to dig. Modern visitors arrive in air-conditioned vehicles, park in designated areas, and take short walks on maintained trails. Yet every year, search and rescue teams recover bodies. Hikers who underestimated distance, tourists whose rental cars broke down miles from the nearest service station, photographers who chased the perfect shot and collapsed before making it back. Death Valley kills efficiently because it attacks multiple systems simultaneously. The heat exhausts you. The dryness pulls moisture from every breath. The vast emptiness means help might be hours or days away, even after someone realizes you're missing. The mountain where oxygen disappears. Mount Everest captures most attention when discussions turn to deadly mountains. But Denali in Alaska presents challenges that many climbers consider even more dangerous than the world's highest peak.
Climbers start to get within striking distance of the summit. They enter an area known as the Death Zone.
Rising over 20,000 feet from a base much closer to sea level, Denali creates its own weather systems, spawning storms that arrive without warning and last for weeks. Temperatures can plummet to -70 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds exceeding 100 miles per hour blow constantly across exposed ridges, creating wind chill values that turn human flesh to ice within minutes. The altitude reduces oxygen to roughly half of what exists at sea level. Your body struggles to perform basic functions. Your brain processes information slowly, making critical decisions nearly impossible. Your muscles fatigue quickly, turning simple movements into exhausting challenges. Climbers describe a feeling of moving through thick water, every step requiring enormous effort, every breath failing to satisfy your body's desperate need for oxygen. This combination of extreme cold, thin air, and violent weather has claimed over 100 lives since people began attempting to summit Denali. Many who die on Denali aren't killed by falls or avalanches. They freeze in their tents, trapped by storms that last 10 days or longer, unable to descend, slowly succumbing to altitude sickness and exposure. Their bodies remain on the mountain because recovery operations in those conditions are nearly impossible. The mountain keeps them, adding their frozen forms to a growing collection of climbers who gambled against nature and lost. Rangers who monitor Denali describe it as brutally unforgiving, a mountain that punishes even small mistakes with death and offers no second chances. The forest where reality dissolves. Deep within Bolivia's Amazon basin stretches Madidi National Park, one of the most biodiverse places on Earth.
Madidi National Park.
Madidi Protected Area is the most biodiverse protected area in the world.
And one of the most disorienting. The jungle here grows so thick that daylight barely penetrates to the forest floor. GPS devices malfunction beneath the canopy. Compasses spin uselessly due to mineral deposits. Rivers change course seasonally, making maps outdated within months. But the real danger in Madidi isn't getting lost. It's what lives in the shadows. Jaguars hunt silently through the undergrowth, powerful enough to drag full-grown caimans into trees. Bullet ants deliver stings that feel like being shot, causing waves of pain that last for hours. Poison dart frogs carry toxins that indigenous tribes use for hunting, compounds so deadly that touching the frog's skin with bare hands can cause heart failure. Plants produce irritants that blister exposed skin. Thorns break off in flesh and fester quickly in the humid heat. Parasites in the water cause intestinal nightmares that can last for months. But according to locals, Madidi's greatest danger is spiritual rather than physical. Indigenous groups describe the forest as alive with presences, ancestral spirits that guard certain areas, and punish outsiders who enter without proper respect. Researchers initially dismissed these warnings as superstition, until several team members began reporting experiences they couldn't explain. Shared hallucinations, time distortions where hours seem to pass in minutes or vice versa, a pervasive feeling of being watched even when completely alone. In 1998, a well-equipped scientific expedition entered a remote section of Madidi to catalog plant species. They maintained radio contact for 3 days before communications ceased abruptly. Rescue teams found their camp abandoned 2 weeks later. Equipment remained neatly organized. Food supplies sat untouched, but the scientists had vanished completely. Search efforts continued for months, expanding gradually in all directions. Eventually, one man was discovered 40 miles from the original camp, walking in circles, unable to explain what happened or where his companions went. He remained largely non-verbal, eyes vacant, flinching at shadows. Whatever he experienced in Madidi broke something fundamental in his mind that never fully healed. The coast where ships go to die. Namibia's Skeleton Coast stretches for over 300 miles where the Namib Desert meets the Atlantic Ocean.
Skeleton Coast is named after the debris and bones that have been washed along the sea over the last, few hundred years.
Dense fog rolls in from the sea almost daily, created when cold ocean currents encounter hot desert air. This fog bank can reduce visibility to a few feet within seconds, disorienting sailors who suddenly find themselves off course and heading for shore before realizing the danger. When ships run aground on Skeleton Coast, crews face a horrific reality. They've landed in one of the most inhospitable environments on the planet. Behind them, the ocean offers only freezing water and powerful currents that make swimming impossible. Ahead lies the Namib Desert, one of the oldest and driest deserts on Earth, extending inland for miles without fresh water, without shelter, without anything that could sustain human life. Early shipwreck survivors faced agonizing decisions. Stay near the wreckage hoping for rescue that might never come, or strike inland searching for help that doesn't exist. Most chose poorly because there were no good options. The beaches of Skeleton Coast are littered with evidence of these tragedies. Rusted hulls of dozens of ships, some dating back centuries, others relatively recent. Between the wrecks lie whale bones, giving the coast its name, but also human remains that crews couldn't bury properly before they themselves perished. Tour companies now offer expeditions to view these ghost ships, but guides strictly enforce boundaries. Venture beyond marked safe zones and the desert proves it's still perfectly capable of killing anyone arrogant enough to test it. We've journeyed through territories where radiation will outlive human civilization, where heat transforms air into a weapon, where isolated tribes defend their shores with lethal force, where mountains and deserts and forests all compete to prove which can kill most efficiently. These places exist not in some distant corner of the universe, but here, on the same planet where you're sitting comfortably right now. The same Earth that produces beautiful beaches and peaceful meadows also contains zones so hostile that survival becomes an achievement rather than an expectation. What strikes me most profoundly about these forbidden locations isn't just their capacity for destruction. It's how they expose the comfortable illusion we've built around human dominance. We've constructed cities that house millions, developed technologies that connect the entire globe, sent machines to other planets. Yet a patch of Ethiopian desert, a Russian lake, or an island in the Bay of Bengal can reduce all our achievements to meaninglessness. Step into these territories and you're stripped of every advantage civilization provides. No app will save you. No technology can overcome temperatures that cook flesh or radiation that shreds DNA. You're suddenly reduced to pure biology, and biology has very strict limits. These places also force us to confront uncomfortable truths about our relationship with Earth. Lake Karachai's poison represents our own creation, industrial waste that we couldn't contain and now can't clean. Death Valley's extreme heat is being amplified by climate changes we've accelerated. The Sentinelese hostility stems from historical traumas inflicted by outside contact. We're not innocent victims of a hostile planet. In many cases, we're the architects of our own forbidden zones. Yet despite every warning, despite documented deaths and scientific evidence proving the dangers, people continue attempting to visit these locations. Why? What drives someone to bribe officials for access to radiation zones? What motivates adventurers to approach islands where inhabitants have made their lethal intentions crystal clear? Is it curiosity? Ego? A fundamental human need to test ourselves against impossible odds? Perhaps it's something deeper. In our climate-controlled, safety-optimized modern existence, genuine danger has become increasingly rare for those privileged enough to live in developed nations. We've sanitized risk, packaged adventure into controlled experiences where the stakes aren't truly real. These forbidden places represent one of the last frontiers where consequences remain absolutely authentic. There's no reset button on North Sentinel Island, no reload option if you collapse in the Danakil Depression. These territories demand genuine courage or genuine stupidity, and the outcome doesn't care which one motivated your visit. I find myself fascinated by the paradox these places create. They're simultaneously real and mythical. We can see satellite images of Lake Karachay, yet its true danger remains invisible. We can map North Sentinel Island's coastline, yet we have no idea what society functions within that jungle. We can measure Death Valley's temperature, yet we can't truly understand the experience until we're gasping for breath and air that feels solid. These places exist in the strange space between knowledge and experience, proven yet unknowable. So what should we take from this exploration of Earth's deadliest corners? Not that humans are weak or civilization fragile, though both statements contain truth. Rather, these places teach humility. They remind us that our planet wasn't designed for human comfort. We adapted to specific environmental conditions through millions of years of evolution. Step outside those narrow parameters, and we're as helpless as any other species suddenly placed in an incompatible environment. But there's beauty in this humility. Acknowledging our limitations doesn't diminish us. It connects us to something larger than our individual existence. These forbidden zones will persist long after we're gone, continuing their deadly work for generations we'll never meet. They represent permanence in a world where everything else seems temporary. They're real in ways that most of our constructed reality isn't. Now I have a question for you. Which of these places affected you most deeply? Was it the invisible death of Lake Karachay, the heat of the Danakil Depression, the mysterious disappearances in Madidi? Drop your answer in the comments because I'm genuinely curious what resonates with different people. And tell me this, would you visit any of these locations if given the opportunity? If someone offered you a guaranteed safe way to experience these forbidden zones, would you take it? Or does learning about them from comfortable safety satisfy your curiosity? If this video made you see our planet differently, if it gave you a new appreciation for the comfortable environment you inhabit right now, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel because we're diving deep into more hidden corners of our world, places that challenge assumptions and reveal truths we often overlook. Share this video with someone who loves nature, adventure, or just really good stories because these places deserve to be known even if they can never be safely visited. Before you go, remember this. Every place we discussed today killed people who thought they were prepared. People who had experience, equipment, knowledge, and determination. They weren't stupid or reckless. They were simply human, which means they were fragile in ways they didn't fully understand until too late. So when you're planning your next adventure, remember that nature doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't reward bravery or punish cowardice. It simply enforces physical laws with absolute consistency. Stay curious about our world. Respect its power because this planet carries memories far older than us. Those empty spaces on maps, those zones marked as restricted or uninhabited, aren't just blank areas. They're warnings shaped by nature itself. They're empty for reasons written in the bones of the people who wandered too far, learned too late, and paid the highest price for ignoring the land's silent rules. These places remind us that humans are only visitors here, passing through landscapes that existed long before us. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next exploration. Until then, stay aware, stay respectful, and stay safe out there.